up, everybody? Welcome back to Remember the Game. It is my retro gaming podcast where every week a buddy of mine and I sit down and we geek out about the games we played back in the day. My name is Adam Blank. Thank you so much for listening to the show. And this week it is episode 310, and it's another one of our prestigious Patreon poll winning episodes. And this time around, we're talking about the winner of our incredibly competitive PS2 poll, Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time. I know it was on GameCube and Xbox as well, but it won the PS2 poll. And I gotta say, this was one that wasn't really on my radar, to be honest. I picked it up for like $10 a couple years ago at a retro game store because I figured like someday I would play it, but I really had no intention of throwing it in my console or getting around to it. I really didn't even know anything about it. I knew the name. The guy looks like a prince, probably from Persia. He's running around in sand. I don't really know. So I finally fired it up last week. I finished it Monday morning, and I gotta tell you, very pleasantly surprised by this game. Sands of Time is a third-person, single-player action game, and you can really see the groundwork for future games, in particular PlayStation. Like, everyone talks about how PlayStation exclusives follow the formula, Uncharted's, Last of Us's, God of War's, Horizons, etc. You really see some of the groundwork for those games in a game like Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. Tons of puzzle platforming where you're running along walls, swinging from ropes, jumping off stuff, hanging from ledges. I really enjoyed that. Frankly, I thought it was the highlight of this game. There was also a bunch of puzzles to solve that were pretty okay. And then some combat that I thought had a great concept, but got a little bit stale and frustrating as the game went on. Don't let that worry you, though. Overall, I really enjoyed Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. So my buddy Daniel is my guest this week. I finished playing this about 5 hours before we recorded. He finished it about 20 years before we recorded. And despite that giant gap in when we played this game, I think we were on about the same wavelength, pretty much everything. Awesome concepts, loved the rewind feature, thought the combat was just a little bit flat. And we'll get to all that in just a minute, because speaking of being just a little bit flat, it's time for another edition of the Remember the Game infamous intro. Dun, 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 dun! And if you're new to the podcast, welcome aboard. Listen, here's a warning. Our intros are a little long, okay? They're fun. We talk video games and stuff, and they're much easier to control than the Prince and Sands of Times can be, but they are a little bit long. So if you want to skip them, go to about the 30-minute mark. Piece of cake, you'll be there. I recommend giving them a listen. We're talking video games and stuff. They're good times. Let me get my plugs out of the way. We'll do this quick. I got to keep the bills on around here. We have all kinds of merchandise, clothes, mugs, posters. You can find it all at rememberthegamepodcast.com. Shout out to my man Joe from 4545 for creating all of that. Easy for me to say. And of course, if you don't like clothes, I get it. Maybe consider our Patreon. Maybe the greatest deal in the history of the universe. Maybe. I don't know. Quick heads up. If you go to patreon.com/rememberthegame, I have a dozen, literally 12 of our Patreon exclusive podcasts waiting for anyone to just listen to for free. They're right there. Boom. You can sign up for free. Check them out. If you do want to sign up for a paid subscription, we give away up to 4 ad-free podcasts every week. Every Monday, Mark McHugh and I talk The Simpsons on Purple Monkey Dishwasher. Every Tuesday, I talk all the biggest news in the world of video games on Game Patch. Every Friday, I talk about whatever the fuck I want on The Rambling Idiot. And every Thursday, it's kind of the Robin to Remember the Game's Batman with Expansion Pass. It's a different gaming show each week. I do ranking episodes. We look back at characters, genres, consoles, franchises. There's modern game reviews. There's comedy episodes. Last week, it was Expansion Pass 228. It was actually really fun. We talked about the next Mario Kart and what we want to see included with it. I think Mario Kart 9 is going to be a launch title for the next Nintendo system, and everyone's got a feature or two they're really hoping Nintendo bakes into it. And as is becoming tradition, here is a sneak peek of last week's episode of Expansion Pass. What do we want in Mario Kart 9? Magpie Eye Pierce said, a season/career mode with 12 randomized stages per season. I want plenty of cutscenes for every character, and I want the choice to play online without items. We'll get into the online. I like this season career mode with 12 randomized stages per season. I actually would like to see a career mode where you play through, maybe I'm stretching it a little bit now, but like in golf, they play through the whole season and you earn points for the FedEx Cup. And then toward the end of the season, the top X amount of players with the most points get to go into what they call like the golf playoffs. And then the top finishers from there go on to the next one, and the top points go into that one, and so on. So what if you did like 20 or 30 random races with every character in the game, and then you go into like the postseason where like maybe the top 16 point getters go into the first round, and then the top 12, and then the top 8 and then the top 4. Something like that I think would be really, really cool. With randomized stages every season, I would be all about that. I'd play the fuck out of that. I never even thought of that. I'd play the fuck out of that mode. That's now available in our archives. This week it's expansion pass 229, and I really wanted to review Astrobot, but I'm not quite done with it yet. So that's coming in the next week or two, I promise. This week we're going to do a topic that almost won our topic poll a little while back, much like I did with Remember the Game episodes 1 through 100 and 101 through 200. I'm going to rank every game that we reviewed on Remember the Game episode 201 through Remember the Game number 300 from my least favorite to my favorite. Usually a pretty good time. So again, subscriptions start for just $3 a month. You get new podcasts every week, instant access to hundreds of ad-free archive bonus podcasts. Not only that, you can also join our 1,000+ member Remember the Game Discord. You get to vote in our Patreon polls every month. You can write into the shows and submit comments and stuff. You can DM with me, and you even get a shout out and get to hear me mispronounce your name like I'm about to do to at least one of these people. A huge thank you to our newest Patreons. Shut Up, Bill Dogtie, Chris Love, Some Idiot, Tommyeth Thy Train, and Manuel Zapita. I think Tommyeth was the one I fucked up. But thank you all so much for the support, and welcome to Remember the Game Industries, patreon.com/Remember the Game. We donate some of that money to charity, and we offer annual subscriptions that'll save you your 12 month's fees. And don't forget, you can find me streaming video games on both Twitch and YouTube now. Twitch.tv/Remember the Game or YouTube.com/Remember the Game. It's free to throw me a follow. You'll know when I'm online. You can come by and see my dumb face. It's good times. That's enough blowing myself. Let's blow some of you by blowing in some cartridges. It is, as always, our opening segment here on the show. I read a few comments and questions from our Patreons, usually gaming related, but not always, and we call this segment Blowing in the Cartridge.
He blows all right. He blows big time.
That's it, honey. Get into the spirit.
Let's blow. Our first blower this week is I'm Just Cyan, who said, "Hey Adam, I tried asking this last week, second time's the charm. Do you plan on playing and reviewing Stellar Blade? And to add to that question, do you also plan on playing and reviewing Black Myth Wukong?" I'll answer the second one first. I have no real ambitions to play Black Myth Wukong. Never say never, but it's not really all that high on my radar. Just not really grabbing me by the gonads. That said, Stellar Blade, I've got the demo recorded or downloaded off PS Plus. I just haven't gotten around to firing it up. So much of my gaming time goes to retro games now that the modern stuff is just fallen to the wayside, unfortunately. I'm almost done Astrobot, really enjoying that. Animal Well is on my radar. I started it. It's awesome. I'm still playing Dave the Diver. I still want to finish Cyberpunk 2077. I'm excited about The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom that's coming out soon, but I do want to check out the demo to Stellar Blade and see if it's something I'm interested in. So not too keen on Black Myth. Cautious or curious. I would consider myself curious when it comes to Stellar Blade. Going to fire that demo up once I'm done with Astrobot and see. So possibly, I guess, it's the best answer I can offer. Because at this point, I don't want to promise I'm going to play stuff, and then when I don't play it, everybody yells at me. I want to play Silent Hill 2 Remake. Spoiler, I have every intention of firing up the original Silent Hill 2 very soon. We're going to be covering that in October, so I can get to that remake as well. I still want to play Alan Wake and Alan Wake 2, and fuck, there's so many games. Oh my God. A Far Cry, no pun intended, because I don't plan on playing those. But a Far Cry from when Far Cry 3 was pretty good. Anyways, a Far Cry from when we were kids, and you had like 3 NES games, and that was all you could play. And for you young kids that never went through that, you don't know what you missed. You don't know. It was more fun than it sounds. At Ty Kroll Music said, "Yo man, are you a Lord of the Rings guy? And did you ever play Return of the King for PS2? I am not a Lord of the Rings guy, so I can't say as I've ever played one of the games or seen one of the movies. And before you write in and tell me you gotta see these movies, no. All right? Lord of the Rings comes up a lot. They're too long. No. If they were half the length, maybe, but otherwise, no. Closest I'm going to get is South Park Stick of Truth. So I'm sorry, Ty Kroll, not a Lord of the Rings guy. Standard Ass Brian said, what if instead of being used to help creatives write code or design the artwork, AI was instead used to help them by taking on more of a business slash executive role, perhaps even eliminating many unnecessary positions that take more money than they bring to the company? Do you think AI would still be pushed so heavily? I would love to see AI used in an executive, I don't really have a lot to add to this because I've never been an executive. I guess I'm kind of an executive here. Remember the game? I'm Molly's assistant. It's kind of neat. But I wonder if you went to like Activision Blizzard, EA, and instead of AI being used to cut jobs in the game development sector, if you were like, hey, we can eliminate 3 board members because AI can do nothing instead, I wonder, would they push it so hard? I just like to put that out there, Standard Ass Brian. I know we're not going to make a difference in this world, but sometimes you just want to put stuff out there. Nice comment. I like it. Lighty's World said, hi, Adam. I hope you and your family are doing well. We are. Thank you, Lighty. What's your take on game preservation being in jeopardy, especially with the Xbox 360 store being shut down and DLC and patches no longer being available for certain pre-owned games? It's a shame because it feels like parts of history are being erased for future generations. Best wishes and keep up the fantastic work. Also, did you hear the voice actor for Splinter passed away? I love the 80s Ninja Turtles cartoon. He will definitely be missed. I did hear that. His name is escaping me right now, but obviously rest in peace. He was up there. Good run. And the best Splinter. I'll hear arguments that future Ninja Turtles cartoons improved on the Ninja Turtles, but the 80s Splinter is the best Splinter. I'm sorry. It is. What's my take on game preservation being in jeopardy? This is something we've talked about. We talked about this when the 3DS eShop shut down, and now obviously I don't think the Xbox 360 marketplace shutting down is quite as dramatic as the 3DS eShop was, because a lot of those, not all, but a lot of those games are still available on the Xbox One and Xbox Series everything's. The 3DS, like if you want to go out and buy physical games or emulate the 3DS, so many of those games are just lost to time forever. It sucks, and it's just going to get worse. As gaming goes on, it's just going to get worse. We're going to see more these live service games. Like 10, 15 years from now, a lot of these lives, like Splatoon 1 is not playable now. A lot of these games, like once their servers go down, these games are going to be just dead. Just dead. So this is where I've always talked about. I think if you're downloading ROMs and emulating games that are for sale by the rights holder, then you are a thief. You're stealing. It's that simple. But once games are taken off marketplaces and not readily available anymore, preserve them. Because it's so tough, man. Games are movies will always be available. TV shows will always be available. Music will always be available. Books will always be available. Video games require so much more energy, hardware. I don't know what you want to say to like, you can't just load up a Netflix with video games and have people play them. So I think the internet and the ROM and emulating communities will keep gaming alive. It's tough because you can't expect Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, whomever to just keep every game they've ever made available for purchase, although I'd love to see that, when no one is buying them. I'm sure they're losing money on that endeavor. But like, you know what I would like to see, if I'm being honest, and I don't think we'll ever see it, but I would love to see some of these companies embrace emulation when it comes to games that are no longer available. So you take, I don't know, Splosion Man. I don't know if Splosion Man is still available, but that was one of my favorite Xbox 360 marketplace games. For the sake of the conversation, let's say Splosion Man is now no longer available to purchase anywhere. I don't know if it is. Let's just say it's not. It would be really cool to see the rights holders of these games come out, and if they're not going to sell them again, just be like, hey, I encourage, like, go ahead and emulate it. They're never going to do that because someday they may sell them again. So they're never going to encourage you to give them away for free. But I would love to see some kind of game preservation society come out where they're like, yeah, you know what? These games aren't available anymore. Go to town. We just want to see people still enjoying them. I just don't think it'll ever get there. Gaming is just too big of industry. There's too much money on the table. These companies are never just going to let us have all their games for free. And again, if they want to sell them, then I don't want them for free. But unfortunately, it's just part of being a gamer. Games are going to start to disappear, and it sucks. Pelshoned said, I recently finished the masterpiece of a game that is Resident Evil 2 Remake. It is a masterpiece. While at work, I mentioned to my buddy that Claire Redfield had become my new video game crush. That led a few of us down the rabbit hole of our video game crushes. Who is on your Mount Rushmore of video game crushes? For me, it's Mad Moxie from Borderlands, Cortana, Anya from Gears, and Tifa. For me, Tifa is number one. It will always be. Tifa will always be my first woman of video games. I love that girl so much. Lara Croft, the modern one. I wasn't into her back in the day. Not a fan of the blocks, but modern Lara Croft is awesome. I gotta say, I'm pretty sweet for the Tears of the Kingdom Breath of the Wild Zelda. I'm a big fan of her. And Sarai from Sea of Stars. I know she's like part robot, and I'm really not sure how old she is, so I'm going to err on the side of caution and say that she's an adult, but she's awesome. I love that character. She's a badass. I'll go with those 4. Honorable mention to, what's her name? The Black Mage from Final Fantasy X. Because I was, honorable mention to her. But I can't remember her name. That's not Yuna. Yuna's the... it doesn't matter. People are yelling at it at their car stereos now. I'm sure you are, but it doesn't matter. Adam, it's your turn. Said, hey, yo, I'm hungry. Let's talk hot dogs. Best place to get a dog and what makes the perfect hot dog with prepping at home. I love that at least once a year we talk hot dogs on this show. Warms my heart. Best place to get a hot dog is at a baseball game. It doesn't even matter where. It doesn't matter how it's cooked. When I'm outside watching a ball game and I'm 4 or 5 beers deep, I'll eat half a dozen hot dogs. That's my favorite place to eat a dog. And as far as when you're making them at home, you got to barbecue them. You got to be right up to the cusp of burned, but not quite, so they're nice and singed and dark. And then a really soft, fresh bun. Fuck the toasted buns. Really soft, fresh bun. Lots of mustard. Throw some onions on there. A little relish. And kiss the sky. Fuck yeah. I love anything other than a microwave hot dog, though, is usually a pretty good hot dog. Fill my mouth with art. Said, I have a weird question. Do you play a game within the seasons you're in? For example, Red Dead Redemption 2 is more of an autumn game. Horizon Zero Dawn is a great winter game. As is Skyrim, Crash Bandicoot, every Mario game, every Tomb Raider fit more for the summer. Is it just me? Sometimes I can't play a game because it doesn't fit in the season. It doesn't help my backlog at all. No, I don't subscribe to that at all. I'm not going to call you weird, but I've never thought of that. The one thing I will say is Splatoon has always felt like a summer game to me. Something about the music, the graphics. I think of like watermelon, water fights. Maybe it's because it reminds me of water fights when I was a kid. But Splatoon feels like a summer game. And NHL, when I do play NHL, it feels like a winter game. But no, I don't. Dude, I play whatever the fuck I can get my hands on. I'm not a seasons guy. No, I'm not. Then finally, before we move on, it's letter time. Justin Combustion said, hey, Adam, I've heard you speak about games in the past suffer from some bad press, like Hogwarts Legacy, and how that can be a good thing to get people talking about the game. But as a creative director who advertises for some major brands, I've come to realize that not all press is good press, because they're not talking about just your product, they're talking about how bad it is. What are your official thoughts? Is all press good press? Stay dandy, brother. I've always thought that all press is, at least to an extent, good press. I do still think that to an extent. I hear what you're saying. You know, when you release a game that's like, what was that fucking Lord of the Rings game that was really bad? The one with the guy that wants the ring. France. Whatever the fuck that little weirdo that wants the ring is. Remember that game came out and everybody was like, this might just be the worst video game in the history of time. I do think when it comes to video games, to an extent, hearing that can actually help a game, because it's clearly never going to be considered good. So if you're not going to be good and get people talking about you for being good, in a marketplace as oversaturated as the gaming world is these days, if you're not going to err on the side of, hey, people are talking about our game and how good it is, then you might be better off getting people to talk about how bad it is, because at least some people might check it out for it being bad. You know, you look at Control, or not Control, excuse me, Concord, and I know it's been taken down and it's, for all intents and purposes, it's dead right now. I'm 100% sure that game at some point comes back as a free-to-play game, and people will remember it because of how badly it got dragged through the mud. That said, you look at like a Suicide Squad, and the bad publicity didn't help that game at all. That game just died on the vine. So I guess to give you an official stance on it, no. I guess I can't say all press is good press, but I will say from a good side or a bad side, at least in the world of video games, I do think 90+% of press is good press. Because it's going to get your... Dude, in video games, unless you're one of the really big fish in the world of video games, or you're like a internet sensation, you're here today, gone tomorrow in the world of video games. So anything that keeps your game on people's lips, I think for the most part, helps it. Suicide Squad, not so much. Hogwarts Legacy benefited huge from all the controversy there. So I'll say 90% of press is good press. And because I get it. There's the odd circumstance. Anyways, thank you everybody that wrote in as always. We need to keep this ball rolling. Let's switch things up. Get to our Smash Hit segment, the official game show of Remember the Game Industries. It is a smash hit. Time Magazine labeled it a smash hit, or they will someday. It is Play 1, Remake 1, Erase 1. And a huge thank you to Classic Concentration from the NES for unknowingly providing us with the theme music for the show. The rules are simple. Every week I give our Patreons 3 retro video games. They can play one as it was released, remake one as a modern game, and the third is erased from time forever. And as always, there are no wrong answers, but there is a right one. We'll get there in a minute. This week, since we're talking Prince of Persia, which has become one of my favorite PS2 games, I went with 3 of my favorite PS2 games. This one was tough. God of War, Twisted Metal Black, Bully. 31% of you said you play God of War, remake Bully, erase Twisted Metal Black. Answers were all over the place. So let's see what a few of you had to say here, and then I'll tell you what the right answer was. Tommyeth Thy Train said the only one out of these that I've actually played is Twisted Metal. It's a great game, but I don't feel like it needs a remake, so I'll just play it. I've never played God of War, but people keep telling me to play it, and I might actually if it gets remade, so I'll put out a good God of War remake, and that means by default, Bully is getting erased. It's sound logic. Well played for your first time. No probation. And you use the 2 sweetest words in the English language. D and fault, which is huge. The Magic Cheese said off the bat, I just punched my microphone. Sorry about that. Magic Cheese didn't say that. Magic Cheese did say off the bat, flush God of War. It's been done better. Play Bully because it's cool while I sit and wait for a full-on massive multiplayer, GTA size, Battlefield size, next-gen Twisted Metal. And we need some new and different car games. Oh, okay. I didn't see the remake, and I was like, what the fuck? Which one are you remake? I see. So you'll flush God of War because it's been done better. You'll play Bully while you wait for a remade Twisted Metal. I can get on board with that. Twisted Metal needs a remake. Spoiler for my answers, Twisted Metal needs a fucking remake. God damn it. Butted Chicken said, I'm going to play God of War because I love that game and franchise, and I still love 1 and 2, and I think they're the best in the series. Wow. You're not alone in that. I don't know if I can't agree with you, but you're not alone in that. There's a few people that think the OG God of Wars are better than modern ones. I can't get on board with that, but well, what does Peter Griffin say? Well, I may not agree with your opinion, sir. I will fight to the death your right to say it, or whatever the fuck it is. Anyway, I'm remaking Twisted Metal Black since I loved the game when it came out. A new coat of paint, some deeper cutscenes would take this game to the bank. And Bully has got to go. So long, jerkface. I gotta say, I'm a little bit ashamed at the lack of love Bully is getting. But when you take 3 games as great as God of War, Twisted Metal Black, and Bully, unfortunately, one's got to draw the short straw. One's got to be AJ. Up there on the asteroid. I understand. Max Power said, play Bully. I never have, and I've always wanted to. You should play. It's really good. Remake God of War and erase Twisted Metal. I love the God of War franchise. I merely liked the Twisted Metal franchise, so unfortunately it gets the eraser. See, I can respect that, Max Power, that you're not erasing the one you haven't played. That's how it's done. Play the one you haven't played. I like that. And your threats don't scare me, Hot Dog Man said, play Twisted Metal. It was made right the first time, and upgrading it could cause more harm than good. It's a chance I'm willing to take, but I hear you. Remake God of War. It's the OG with the best storyline, in my opinion. Remade PS5 graphics would be awesome. And then erase Bully, because bullies are bad. It should not be rewarded. Okay. See, I used to think that too, but I don't think Bully in this game is really much of a bully. I think he's kind of an anti-hero. Frankly, he might just be kind of a hero. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going with 21% of you this week. Not the majority, but a sizable portion. And Joey Jojo thinks the same as me. Joey Jojo said, OG God of War is still really good, so I'm going to play that. I'm going to remake Twisted Metal because vehicular combat needs a comeback. And I'm going to erase Bully because Rockstar games are just not for me, and I couldn't care less if I ever play it. Different logic from my perspective, same reason or same order. I'm playing God of War because, frankly, it's just really fucking good. It's just really fucking good. Of these 3, I think God of War is aged the best. I'm going to remake Twisted Metal Black because we need that fucking series back with a Battle Royale mode in the worst fucking way, and I'll keep saying it until it happens. And I'm going to erase Bully because while I do think it's very fun, I do think it's the least fun of these 3. Great game, but it is the least fun of the 3. I'm sorry, Bully. I'm sorry. Shouldn't have beat me up so much when I was a kid. Thank you, everyone that played along as always. What have I been playing over the last 7 days? You might be asking yourself. I have been playing Prince of Persia Sands of Time, which you're about to hear my thoughts on. Really, really good. I've been playing Astrobot, which you'll hear my thoughts on in the next week or 2. Fucking Game of the Year contending good. It is a borderline system seller, in my opinion, for the PS5. Astrobot is so good. And I've been playing Mass Effect 3 to get ready for an upcoming episode of Remember the Game, which is also very, very good. I've only been playing good games for the last couple of weeks. Fuck, Mass Effect 3 is so good, man. We're hoping to review that one next week. If we don't make the cut, it's going to sneak into October, but I'm hoping to get it in next week. Don't hold me to that, though. I'm not sure. It's a big, big game. We'll see if we can get it done by then, all right? Here's what's going to happen. I need a drink of water, so we're going to pause here. We're going to let a sponsor in. They're going to do their thing, and I guess I'll do the thing for them. But when we get back, it's all about Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, okay? We'll be right back after this. We've had some great partners over the years here at Remember the Game, but I don't know if any of them have hit home for me quite like Hometown Hero does. No pun intended. Don't start. It's a transparent, honest cannabis company that helps people and gives back to those that have served their country at the same time. I mean, come on. As soon as I read about these guys, I knew I wanted to work with them. Hometown Hero is a cannabis company out of Austin, Texas, and they were founded back in 2015 by a U.S. veteran. They have two goals: create premium hemp products that can help everyone, and to support veterans by donating a portion of those profits to organizations set up to take care of those who have served. Hometown Hero products are of the highest quality, and everything they offer is made right there in the U.S. of A. Gummies, caramels, chocolates, drink mix. There's something for everyone. And what's more, their hemp is grown locally in Texas, which is something they should and do take a lot of pride in. And they offer certificates of analysis for everything they sell because they want to be clear that their products are as advertised, both in terms of potency and ingredients. No contaminants, you get what you pay for. Just how they conduct business is enough to get my good eyes' attention. But when you circle back to the fact that the company was founded by a veteran and they put such heavy emphasis on supporting veterans, this isn't just lip service. I'm not reading a script I was given here. I'm proud to have Hometown Hero associated with Remember the Game. Reclaim your evening. Visit hometownhero.com and use code RTG to take 20% off your first purchase. That's hometownhero.com, code RTG for 20% off your first purchase. This is an ad by BetterHelp. A band once said, "Work sucks, I know." And I think most people agree with them. Workplace stress is now one of the top causes of declining mental health, with 61% of the global workforce experiencing higher than normal levels of stress from their jobs. And while walking away from your job might not be an option, taking a little time every day to focus on yourself and your mental health can make a huge difference. I know in the summer I try to get outside every day, get a little bit of sun, and just enjoy the outdoors. It really helps. At least until my allergies attack, and then it's ugly. It's important to take steps to combat work stress, and therapy can be a huge one. It's not just for overcoming trauma. Therapy can help you define work goals, set some work boundaries, develop coping skills. It's like a cheat code for life. And if you're thinking, man, I'm too busy for therapy, well, look into BetterHelp. They make therapy as convenient as possible. You can meet with one of their over 30,000 therapists online and on your schedule, just like over 5 million people around the world already have done. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Unwind from work with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/rememberthegame. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/rememberthegame. All right, let's talk Prince of Persia. As always, I like to let the Patreons sound off on the game we're covering before my guest and I hog the microphone, and we had no shortage of comments this week, so let's see what a few of you had to say. No One's Getting Stabbed in Toronto Tonight said, "It's funny how much this game felt like it influenced pop culture around this time. Maybe in the case of parkour. Easy for me to say. Definitely has some parkour to it. My email password for the longest time was I love Prince of Persia. I hope you've changed that. We used to do wall running in gym class during warm up, everyone pretending we got 5 or 6 steps on the wall before touching the group again. Really glad to hear that you played the PS2 version over the PS3 version, because after replaying it this week on my PS3, the audio tracks were so bad." I gotta say, we get into it a little bit on the show. I didn't find the music in this game particularly memorable. I will say that. If that's the biggest hurdle in the PS3 remake, then I might have to fire it up at some point. I played about half the game listening to YouTube videos. Love the game, and I don't think the music's bad, but the music didn't wet my whistle at all. I gotta say that. Great game, though. Adam Blank Loves You line said, "Sands of Time was the first game I ever bought with my own money, and I played it purely because I thought it looked cool. Before that, I had always relied on hand-me-downs from my older brother or played what he told me was cool. I remember being stuck forever on the library puzzle, but loving every minute of this game. Buddy, that library fucked me around for a long time, too. That's a big fucking room. I finally had to look up where to go at one point, and I just missed one ledge I could run on, and that's where I was stuck. I hear you on the library." KDP said, "This was one of my absolute favorite games that I used to play out through on a loop. I love the character, the fighting, the rewinding. Aw, man, so much fun to be had. Dying for a remaster. There's never been anything else like it. How much fun you could have working out the huge traversals across rooms. Pure joy." They are remaking it, but it's been delayed like 12 times. I'm not even convinced it's ever coming out. I think it's in Silk Song territory now. Lord Palmerston said, I played this on Xbox and it was a 10 out of 10 at launch and it holds up really well even today. The time control mechanic works so well with the gameplay. The platforming is fun. The combat is engaging. And I would often find myself just looking around at the world because of how beautiful the design and the graphics were. It's a top 10 game of that gen for me. I enjoyed the sequel, but sadly Sands of Time released during a period where everything had to be dark and edgy to sell more copies. The developers went that route. I'm glad the franchise is back. It's one of the very few that have been around since the pre-Windows days, and it is still going strong. I have to say, I wasn't playing a ton of games in the PS2, Xbox, GameCube era, but I don't even remember this one coming out. But you're right, that was the Edge era. I agree with that. And Gooday said all 3 games in the PS2 series were great. I remember borrowing Sands of Time from a buddy and instantly loving it and buying it for my own collection. Hopefully the sequels will get episodes in the future. I will lay dollars to donuts. Prince of Persia, I don't even know what the second and third ones are called on the PS2. They will both get episodes of RTG at some point, I promise. But that's for the future. This is for now. And for now, it's time to talk the OG Prince of Persia Sands of Time with my buddy Daniel. I'm going to cue up some music. And when it stops, we are in fact talking Sands of Time, which originally dropped on the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox in North America on November 11th, 2003. Enjoy the podcast, everybody. Let's go. All right, joining me via the blank phone this week to talk Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. Now, we're talking the PS2 era one, because as far as I know, there's already one remake, and now they're remaking it again, but that might not come out for like 1,000 years. Joining me is someone that has never been remade, and that is my buddy Daniel. How are you, man? You're the OG, Daniel.
Yeah, the first one that you knew anyways. I know we've got a few in the community now, and the one cunt that sent you that email.
Yeah, there is one bad one, but most of the Daniels by and large seem to be pretty decent people. Daniel Alfredson sucks.
Yeah, the Daniel Council is going to deal with that. Just ignore any stories in the paper.
Yeah, there's always one bad. I'm sure there's a bad Adam somewhere. I don't know who, but I'm sure that maybe I'm the bad Adam.
Yeah, if you don't know, maybe don't think about it too deep.
Yeah, what's this? If you can't spot the asshole in the room, then guess what? And I don't see an asshole Adam, which means, anyway, we're talking Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. I have to say, my friend, this game, not an asshole. To be honest, I liked this game exponentially more than I expected it to. Like, surprisingly more than I expected to. This is a really good fucking video game.
In a rare twist, I haven't played this one recently. But I played it when it first came out. I watched a recap to get ready for this. Mm-hmm. I did not think that this would be right up your alley. When I heard you were playing this, I was like, well, that's not going to go great. So I was pleasantly surprised to hear that you enjoyed it.
The PS2, and I know it was on GameCube and Xbox as well, but I played the PS2 version. Because it won our PS2 Patreon poll. The PS2 is such an anomaly to me because I know how many people out there just adore this console. And nothing but respect for the PlayStation 2. I just was not a big PS2 guy. And so I played Bully for the first time. I played Grand Theft Auto San Andreas for the first time. I played God of War for the first time. Devil May Cry for the first time. Shadow of the Colossus. I'm playing all these PS2 games for the first time. And most of them I'm liking. And when I fired up Prince of Persia, and because I just stopped playing The Lost Crown, which, sidebar, have you played The Lost Crown, the new one?
No, it's on my list to try out. And then I know you kind of fell off of it, but I've heard lots of good things about it. So
yeah, for what it's worth, I wouldn't, I struggled. I really, it's a big Metroidvania, and I liked it for about 10 hours. And then I kind of started to check out. And then I finally just have you ever had one of those games where you're like, there's nothing objectively wrong with this game, but every time I'm playing it, it's because I'm sitting down and forcing myself to play it.
Yep. Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think anybody who plays games like we do has games like that.
Yeah, you buy it and you almost feel like it's an obligation to play it because you bought it. And I probably went 3 months trying to get into The Lost Crown, and it's not a bad game. It's a pretty good Metroidvania, but I just, for some reason, I finally just got to the point where I was like, maybe I'll come back later. Fire Emblem Engage was that for me, too. It's not doing anything wrong, but I was like, I literally never want to play this. And so that's the only Prince of Persia experience I have is the Lost Crown. And so when I fired up Sands of Time, I was skeptical that it would be my type of game as well. And I'll be honest, the story didn't really do a ton for me, but the gameplay
guy.
Pardon me?
You're not a huge story guy. Like even a lot of like the God of War games, you kind of check out of the story, and they're
I do. I feel like
it's just not your jam.
It well, like the right one is, but it's got to be like The Last of Us. Obviously, I love the story, but it's got to be the right story, or else I'm just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I just want to get back to playing.
Yeah.
But to its credit, I shockingly enjoyed, like, if I'm being honest, man, I think this is like a top 10 PS2 game for me now. Like, I fucking loved this game, and it's got some minor things that piss me off. I will say it controls better than I expected it to. Like this,
the controls for getting around, especially for how simple it is. Like everything is, you've got one button, and then whatever it is, the jump A or X, whatever, and then you've got the shoulder button, and that's what lets you do your wall runs and everything.
Yeah,
and that's kind of it, aside from combat.
Yeah, it was like, I will say, listen, because I'm a platforming snob, and I will say there were moments where the thing, what fucked me up the most in this game was, at least on the PS2 version, R1 was your either run like the wall run, or like, so you like run from one platform horizontally across the wall to another platform, or else you run straight up the wall and then do like a backflip off it or grab a ledge up there and stuff. And the one thing I kept running into problems with was I would try to get him to run across the wall horizontally and he'd run straight up, or vice versa. And I don't know if that was just my sucking at the game or if that was a PS2 limitation, but admittedly, like listen, we can all love the PS2, GameCube, Xbox era, but some games have aged better than others from that generation.
Oh, for sure.
This one did good. Not perfect, but good. It held up. It was, and what's brilliant. So if you've not played it, you play as this prince guy, presumably of Persia, and you end up getting your hands on this dagger of time, and then you can use it to rewind time or like freeze time. And the whole game is split in either platforming, puzzle solving, or combat. And can we agree that like the rewinding of time, particularly like 20 years ago when this game came out, that was pretty.
Yeah, we didn't have the modern like
cool
the save states thing and the rewind on Nintendo Online or the mini consoles. We didn't have that back then.
No.
This was a novel concept.
Absolutely. Kids today, like, and I'm one of them. Games today, like when all these retro game compilations come out and you can rewind like Mega Man and you can rewind as much as you want and stuff like that. I'm not going to criticize anyone that abuses rewind in a game like that, because I know how tough Mega Man can be, but they have made us soft. It's so easy to rely on rewind now instead of just working about getting good. But you're right. And when this one came out, it was kind of a novel thing. And I'm curious what you think. 75% of the inclusion of this rewind thing was because they're like, this is a really cool mechanic. When you're dying in a fight or when you miss a jump or anything, you can burn one of your energy orbs in the dagger of time and rewind time like 10 seconds or some shit and try again. It's pretty cool. I do think a small part of it was to make up for the occasionally buggy platforming.
The buggy platforming and the issues with combats. And I've got a lot to say about the combat.
Yes.
When we get there. But yeah, it's and this game relies so much on timing, which was very precise, but it's precise in that era where 3D platforming was certainly there.
Yeah.
It wasn't as precise as it is now, and I wouldn't argue that it's particularly precise these days either.
No,
so it definitely, I think, when you're demanding precision like that, it's definitely nice having that, and it is. It's a cool mechanic.
It really is. It is. I will say, like, there were instances where I would miss a jump because you're right. It's so weird. Some of the jumps are like, you'll go into a room, and what's really cool is what I like about this. One of the things I like about this game is when you go into a room, if it's like a big room where maybe you need to climb all the way to the top or climb all the way to the bottom, the camera will take a few moments to like pan around to the screen and kind of show you.
Yeah,
like an idea of where you're going.
And it doesn't show you like, okay, you're going to need to go here to here, here, here. It kind of like, it gives you an overview.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can kind of go, okay, like I'm seeing jumps here and I can see a switch there. So you can, without it totally giving you the answer, it kind of gives you a chance to, like, when, if you were to walk into a room in real life and look around.
Yeah. Yeah. Side note, I want to know what, like, it was so funny playing this game. One of the things I love about playing PS2 games like God of War and this and Shadow of the Colossus and stuff like that is I always say it on the podcast. I buy PlayStation consoles for PlayStation games, and like they're third-person games, like the Uncharted's and the Last of Us's, Horizons, God of War's. Like that's what I will never stop. PlayStation, if you're listening to this, as long as you keep making those games, you will always get my money because those games
Yeah,
are so good.
absolutely.
But like, it's become such a cliche. The climbing, the swinging off poles. A lot of the time now it's painted yellow, so you can see the yellow ledge that you have to
Yeah.
climb onto and stuff. I want to know where, like, is this where it started?
This
Games
is
like
definitely one of the first ones that really, really emphasized this. And then a few years later, we had God of War. And I think that really started the puzzle platforming that became
Shadow of the
that.
Colossus was big on that too.
Yeah. Like these were the ones that kind of set those first stones.
Yeah, and
that
it's
was one of the things I wanted to bring up. This game crawls so that a lot of those modern ones that we all love could run.
absolutely as a huge fan of the Uncharted games, I couldn't help but see a little Uncharted DNA in this game. Like playing it, just with the climbing and the running on the walls and shit like that. And I know some people criticize that stuff and say that games are too reliant on it now. And I'll hear the argument that I don't know why it always has to be yellow paint. Maybe it's because it stands out, but the painting on all the ledges you can grab maybe is a little bit handholdy and cheesy. But
Yellow is least likely to be affected by color blindness, I think.
oh, that would make sense.
I'm not positive on that, but I like the few colorblind people I know, that's not a color that they have issue. So regardless of whatever their issues might be, that color will still show up for them.
That makes sense. Plus, like, I would just assume that, like, when you're climbing a mountain or you're climbing a fucking wall in a factory or something, there's not a lot of yellow.
No.
Like, if you were to make it all white, it'd be harder to see. But yellow, like, it kind of just and red would look like blood, which would be kind of weird. But yeah, I couldn't help but see the DNA of some of the games I love in this game. And I prefer my platformers in 2D. I don't know why. I don't know if you're like this. I've always enjoyed puzzle platforming when I go into a giant room and I need to figure out, okay, Tomb Raider, even, for example, was another one. Like, how do I get from down here to up there using the walls, the beams, the cracks in the wall? Like, I don't know why. I found this game almost calming when I wasn't in the combat, which like you mentioned, we'll get to there. And I don't hate the combat, but I didn't find the combat nearly as fun as the platforming aspect of it. But like you mentioned, sometimes it can be very precise. And that was one of the things I would struggle occasionally with, trying to get the dude to like run around, like run across the wall when I wanted to run up, or vice versa. But the other thing I struggled with sometimes, dude, there's one jump. I don't know if you can remember because I haven't played it in a long time. Near the end of the game, you actually lose the dagger of time. Yeah. And then you need to do some platforming without the handhold of the rewind. And there's
I swore a lot more than I should have at that age.
Buddy, maybe it's just because I had spent the last 7 or 8 hours playing the game with the ability to rewind, but that area fucked me. And there's one jump where you climb up and then you swing off of a bar and you have to jump across the ledge and land on like a wooden beam that's sticking out from a wall. And you need to be quite precise with your jump to stick the landing on this beam. And I must have died there 20 times and I couldn't rewind. And I finally Googled it and I'm like, I looked up a video and someone did the exact thing I was trying to do, jumping onto this beam. So I'm like, that is what I have to do. So then I Googled it and found like whole threads of people struggling with this one jump, to the point where someone had published a link to a ROM save that was just past that jump, in case you couldn't get by it. And it was so precise. There's very few criticisms, but I will say, for a game that's not super tight and it's kind of fuzzy, which was the style at the time, the precision platforming on occasion can get a little bit frustrating.
Especially when you've spent the entire game like drilling into, if you don't get this, you rewind and you try it again.
Yeah.
Like, then when you get to that section where you don't have that ability, maybe don't put the jumps that require that absolute precision there.
Yeah, like,
you dial back the difficulty a bit more, and then when you get the dagger again, then you can go balls to the wall. precision
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I will say I thought it was pretty forgiving with its checkpoints. Like I thought every time I died, I was going back to the last time I saved, and that's not the case. It's pretty nice.
You're usually back to the not even to the beginning of the room, if I remember correctly.
No.
Like it's like because I mean some of the rooms are pretty big, but there's like definite broken into sections.
Yeah, it's fairly forgiving with those, but that jump at the end, and like you said, I don't even know if I want to say it. I guess it's like this particular jump is not my criticism. It's just the occasional precision of some of the jumps I found a little bit frustrating. But this one jump onto this fucking beam, and people that have played the game, it is literally right near the very tail end of the game because you don't have the dagger. I've already climbed my way up to the top. It is right near the end of the game. And I missed this jump so many times. And it was a rare instance where every time I missed the jump, I would go to the rewind button and it wouldn't work because I didn't have my dagger of time. And then I'd have to reload at my last save point. And it was only about a 20 or 30 second hike up to try that jump again. But when you've spent the whole game having 5, 6, 7, 8 shots at a jump before you miss it, if you haven't been wasting your rewinds, to have to hike back to the jump over and over again, not full angry, irritated at him. Like not angry at him, but just enough of, I was dropping whatever you says, which is something I do when I feel like a game is fucking with me. I'll be like, okay, whatever you fucking say. Does anyone else, do you do that? Does anyone else do that? Okay. Yeah. Where you're just like, it's like a referee making a bad call and you're like, okay, whatever you say, bud. And that's how I feel with the game. And this jump, that fucking jump. And there was a moment where I was like, do I rage quit this game at like 95% done? And I was like, no. And nothing else gave me as much trouble as this jump. Once I stuck that jump, I beat the game. But that fucking jump, man, I was like, you
I can't remember. Can you move the camera in this game?
You can.
Like I know it has the normal and then you can pan it out, but I couldn't remember if you could turn the camera.
Well, you can a little bit. It does get stuck a lot. One of the things I like that it does is it lets you put the camera, it lets you go first person, but you can't move. So
you can look around.
Yeah.
Like the Mario 64-bit thing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So when I'm hanging off this beam, I'm going into first person and I'm like, okay, the next jump I have to make is right there. Because that's the other thing. And getting back to the point of painting everything yellow, when it comes to the platforming in this game, there are times where and this is throughout the entire game, climbing that giant bird cage, it was once or twice too, where I had to stop and just look around and just be like, okay, I see a platform over there. It looks like it might be too far. I see a beam over there that I might be able to jump and grab and shimmy up, but I can't figure out which one to go to. And so sometimes I'd have to burn a rewind or two just trying to figure out what the next jump it wanted me to make was. And that's not a complaint because I think that's just it being the puzzle game that it is.
This game, because of how early it was in this style of gameplay, it really had the chance to have, when you play a 2D game and you see something you can't tell if that's part of the background or something you can jump on. This game really had a chance to have a 3D version of that, and it for the most part doesn't.
Agreed. Very rare.
It's very clear that this is there's a beam or a pillar or a ledge or something.
Yeah, I would count on one hand the number of times that I jumped towards something and then realized, I can't even interact with that. It did happen, but it wasn't common.
Yeah.
It was on occasion, but it was fine. I quite enjoyed most of the platforming puzzles. I didn't find them too frustrating or too irritating. One thing I adored about this game, and it honestly... rookie move by me. Because I bought this game physically for my PS2, so I have an instruction manual. I always stress this to people. If you're playing a retro game for the first time, read your manual. At least glance at it, because they don't have tutorials built in like modern games. And this is on me for just being the fucking ADD dipshit that I am and not paying attention. I got about halfway through the game before I realized the little flash scenes it's showing me at the save point are hints to what I have to do between now and the next save point. And once I actually figured that out, I was like, oh. So there's a couple of times where I would get stuck and then I would just hike back to my last save point, walk into it, and then you get these quick little black and white cutscenes, usually showing the dude platforming and stuff. And then you realize so when I climb this ladder on the bookshelf, there'll be a beam to the left that I can run over and jump and grab. And I thought that was a brilliant little mechanic that frankly I didn't pay enough attention to for the first half of the game. I quite liked it.
I had forgotten about that till you mentioned it, but I think I ran into the same thing where it didn't click in right away.
Yeah. Like at first it doesn't really seem like that big a deal. And then as the game gets tougher, you start to realize like, man, there was a multiple times in the second half of this game, I would hoof it back to the last save point and replay the vision just to see what I was like. I'm like, what am I? Oh, I can move this statue. You know what I mean? Or like something like catch something. I thought that was very, very clever. Also, I thought, that the whole game is told through, I can't remember the main guy's name. I should have had it ready.
I think he's just called the Prince. I don't think he has a name.
I'm just looking here. I think you might be right. Just the
But
Prince.
yeah, there's the Prince. He's the Farah, the Maharaja's daughter.
Yeah.
And then the Vizier.
By the way, and we'll get there with the combat portion, which we're going to do after the break. But I just want to say, a lot of people rag on Ashley from Resident Evil 4 and what an annoying escort mission that is. If you have played this, I don't want to hear any more words about Ashley because Farah, worse than Ashley.
Yes.
I just want to say that.
Not the worst there, but
she sucks. But we'll get I don't even hate the character, but fucking protecting. Anyway, we'll get there when we got to the. She drives me crazy. But you're right. Yeah. So it's the nameless prince. One of the things I really like about this game is the entire game is told like it's him recounting this tale, and like when you die,
I like when you die, and he's like, "Oh wait, that's not how it happened." But yeah, it's like he's telling you the story.
Yeah, the retry screen will pop up and he'll be like, wait, no, that's not what happened. Yeah. And then you can I don't even think it was intended to be funny, but I thought it was a clever little way of just being like, no, I am telling the story and that's not what happened.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really just a nice little touch.
Yeah.
So I liked that. I loved the puzzle solving. I got to say too, I don't want to say I hated this story. Like the story's not bad. You get this dagger of time and then you find this like giant hourglass full of the sands of time. And you can use the dagger of time to like, you have to use it to kill enemies and you can use it to rewind, to retry your jumps and stuff like that. And there was the occasional cutscene and they didn't go for too long, but I'm just like, I will say of all the games I've played with stories from this era, I would give this story like a B-. Like it just felt like
good. It wasn't too long. It's not Metal Gear levels of cutscene movie bits. Like it was enough to sort of, we can't tell this bit as part of the gameplay, so we're gonna have a short one. But all the cutscenes were pretty short and kind of just, aside from I think at the beginning where there's the whole we invaded this palace, we stole their stuff and the daughter, and then
I'm not a graphics guy, but like the cutscenes were quite impressive.
Yeah,
they looked really good.
They were.
Yeah,
I like the character. Like the characterizations were simple and cliched, but in the right way. Yeah, like the Jafar wannabe Vizier there. Like he's very obviously evil and almost cartoonishly so right from the get go.
Totally.
But the prince is cocky and all that. Like it's like the cliches are all there. But they're done well and they work.
Speaking of cliches, the way that the prince and Farah kind of fall in love as you go throughout the game, but some of the little digs they take at each other, especially when they get separated, and the prince just like, because I don't mean to, it's not a sexist thing. I'm sure Shaylee sometimes sits around and bitches about me, but like, what person hasn't gone out and like their partner, their wife, their husband, their spouse tells them to do something or tells them like, hey, why did you do it this way? And you walk away and you're like, why did you do it this way? And then there's a couple incidents, and it's so funny because the first half of the game there's like no humor, and then for some reason as the game gets going, every once in a while the prince will be doing these like death-defying Spider-Man-esque wall climbs, and while he's doing them he's like just mocking the way Farah's always telling him what to do. And it really did make me chuckle a couple of times. It was really funny.
He's got a lot of good quips. Like not quite Spider-Man level, but definitely he's got some quips in there, and it keeps him fun.
And while he's like, and then he'll find Farah, and she'll be like, "What's taking you so long? Why aren't you up here?" And he's like, "Why am I up there?" And he's like, "Why don't you come down here and climb all this?" Like, and he's just, I don't know. It fucking made me chuckle a few times. It was like you said, the villain is like like extra fromage. Like the villain is as cheesy as it gets, but it
really
works.
is.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I felt like the characters, the cutscenes, the voice acting, the story, all of it was just there to make you move from one room to the next room.
Yeah.
And that was all I needed it to be. That's fine.
Yeah. So I don't, because I didn't play this, and I was talking to you about this off screen. I watched a recap of it, and one of the brief things is I know the guys creating this. They went in with 4 pillars. One of which was the rewind feature. The other is the acrobatics and the way the prince moves.
Yeah.
The setting, and the lore, and then the combat was the last pillar. And you can tell where the budget ran out.
Yeah, I always use that a horribly simplified way of explaining that like a game is like a pie.
It is. And they wanted that rewind feature to be a key point, and they put a lot of time and effort into do it, and it worked great. I have very few issues with that and the stand powers. That the acrobatics for the most part are pretty good. There's a few times where, like you said, because they wanted to keep the controls simple, sometimes you're trying to do the wall run and it goes straight up instead of across. But it's there and it works.
I will say with the rewind, because I agree with just about everything you just said, I will say there was the occasional instance. One of the problems with the rewind is that as you go through the game, you find these like glowing holes in the ground, and as you jab the dagger of time into them, you slowly develop extra bullets of like, I don't know if they're supposed to be grains of sand or just power or whatever the fuck, but
it's grains of sand. It's the sand. You're absorbing the sands of time.
Right. So your meter grows, and every time you collect enough grains of sand, you get an additional orb of rewind time on your rewind meter. And one of the things, and it took me a long time, and I don't know why, I just suck. I would miss a jump, and so I would hit L1, and then a little countdown meter appears at the top of the screen to kind of show you how far back you can rewind. And so I'd miss a jump, so I'd burn one of my grains of sand to rewind myself back up onto the ledge. And then once I was back up on the ledge I jumped off of, I let go of the rewind button and then realized I'm still just 3 frames away from before I jumped. So then he automatically jumps again.
So many times.
And then I have to burn another, right? And, fuck.
Yeah, by the end of it, I was rewinding. I'm like, I know I've got to rewind to 5 seconds. I'm rewinding 10. I don't care if I have to, walk along that beam again or whatnot. Because so many times I did that. Even 20 years later, I can remember that.
Yeah, that drove me a little bit batty. And then I'll say this, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll get into the combat. But as a little bit of a segue into the combat, the other thing that kind of, and maybe I could have just clicked quit, and I didn't. But I don't think I could have. Because again, the game was really forgiving with its checkpoints. And so like I would save, say, 10 minutes ago, and then I would run into a room where I had to fight a bunch of enemies. And if the enemies started to fuck me up and I was losing, instead of burning a rewind when I ran out of health, I'd be like, you know what, just let me die and I'll start over because I've let this get completely out of control. And then the only way to let it game over and like let me reload, not at my save, but at the checkpoint, which I would lose if I turned the game off because I haven't saved in a while, would be to lay there for like a solid 10, 12 seconds while the Sand of Time thing wore out. Do you know what I'm like? And that also irritated me. I was lots
of time to be able to rewind, but I really wish there was a way you could just say it's like when you would hold the button at the arcade to kill the continue timer, so the next person.
Like if I could just pause and load last checkpoint or something.
Yeah,
and again, I don't want to load my last save. Yeah, that was the other thing. But anyway, other than that, though, the rewind was cool. Okay, so we've talked about the platforming. I do want to get into the combat. I want to get into some of the trap rooms. And then I don't know, I don't know what else really is to talk about.
I just wanted to comment a bit more on the platform. And one of the things I like about this game, and this is coming from the way back I studied 3D animation, specifically looking at games. And this game was actually, the development of this was actually in the textbooks we had at the time. He has real weight, which is so hard to do in a game. None of his feats are superhuman. Like he's very skilled at what he does.
Sure.
But if he falls a story and a half, he dies.
Yeah.
When he goes to jump, like he's got weight when he grabs the ledge, and I really appreciated that they had that because that's one of those things that you don't see. Even some of the Uncharted games and things, they're Nate's a little bit floaty sometimes, or and I really liked how this game he had weight to him. and he seemed almost much more realistic than you get with some games.
I never really thought of that, but yeah, you're right. Because like, I mean, everyone knows like I'm a Mario fiend, and let's be honest, like for a man who Mario is overweight for his body type, Mario is overweight, and that man jumps like he weighs about 8 ounces.
Yeah.
Like he is. There's nothing to him. You're right. The Prince. Occasionally, it's frustrating, but I do think it adds a lot to the game. The Prince feels like he's heavy, and like when you land. You stick for a second, like it's his whole body like slamming up against the wall or whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
I never thought of that, but you're right. It does feel really good that way, like the physics engine, I guess if you want to call it that.
And I remember seeing videos like that they were showing us in class. The animators would literally film each other doing whatever they were trying to do, because this is way back before motion capture was as good as it was. So
sure, yeah.
So you've got this balding slightly overweight guy doing this over dramatic death scene. And
it is kind of funny to say that the weight is realistic when this man is doing parkour that like the top 0.1% of the world could do. But it's still though, it never feels, it may look a little bit like okay, but it never feels off. It's weird. You're right. You're right. That deserves a shout out. That's really impressive. Much more impressive than the combat. So here's what we'll do. We'll take a break. When we get back, we'll kind of get into the combat, and I don't hate it, but I do think it's the weakest part of the game. And then I don't know, whatever else comes to mind, and then we'll shut this thing down. So we'll be right back after this. Okay, Daniel, you take the floor. Where are you on the combat in this game?
It was definitely it's the weakest part. Like I was saying, of the 4 things they were going for, it's the weakest. I like the concept of it. You've got 1 button for jump, 1 button for the sword, 1 for the dagger. And 1 for block, and different combinations can do different things. The game never does what you want it to do.
Yes.
Many times I wanted to jump off because like the jump off the wall, like even back that was the trick to knocking down especially any of the bigger guys.
Yeah.
And it never worked. It never targeted the guy I wanted. And like you said earlier, you have to use the dagger to kill somebody, otherwise they just get back up again. And the number of times I'm trying to kill somebody else, and it's then it goes to do the dagger to in the falling down guy, and then somebody hits you because all your animations can be interrupted.
Yes.
And for a guy that runs as fast as he can and can run 20 feet up a wall, he takes forever to swing a fucking sword.
Fuck yeah, he does. I agree with that because I don't think the combat is terrible. I will say I'm glad that it's not just me, because I traditionally just don't enjoy. Like I'm always going to prefer platforming to combat in video games.
Oh yeah,
it's just something that when I'm playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, another game that you can see this game's influence in. I'm always going to prefer the parkour parts to the combat parts. Like it's just not something that appeals to me as much. Yeah, I do like how simple the combat in this game is. When you start out playing. And there's one of the first fight. I think it's one of the first fights where you need to protect Farah. It might be the first one where you have to protect Farah. And there's some enemies that are wearing like red costumes and some that are wearing blue. And you start to realize that the red ones, you can kind of run and jump over top and land behind them and hit them from behind. The blue ones, your best course of action is to use that wall attack, jump off the wall and dive forward and hit them that way. It throws 3, 4, 5 enemies at you at a time. I do find it a little bit annoying that if you get too far away from an enemy, instead of it walking over to you, it'll just disappear and appear somewhere around you because the camera gets zoomed in and I'm trying to strategize. And then all of a sudden, all the enemies appear in different places around me. And now I don't even know where the fuck they are. And in the instructions, it specifically says, do not let yourself get surrounded. And they're right. Because if you get surrounded in this game, you're fucked.
Oh, you're fucked.
But you mentioned it. For as simple as the controls are, it has kind of an auto lock on the enemies you're fighting. And it can be really, really frustrating when I'm intending to attack enemy A and the game decides to have me attack enemy B instead. And the attack that I'm using on enemy A isn't even going to work on enemy B. I miss. Now I leave myself vulnerable. Enemy A just clobbers me, and now I get knocked down. And a lot of the time, that's where I run to the situations where I just let the clock run out and be like, let me just start again.
Yeah.
And it really could be, I don't know what it could have done better to make the targeting system. I don't know if it like, maybe you click an analog stick and then it highlights who your target. I don't know.
That,
but I
or,
do,
you know, or give you the option to completely like to lock on somebody, like, you know, have the like Z targeting from Zelda
yeah,
or something.
because I agree. That killed me more than the combat was.
Yeah.
I would hit the wrong guy because, as Daniel mentioned, you have your sword and your dagger, and I really like this mechanic. Your sword you can use to knock enemies down, but once they're knocked down on the ground, you have a finite amount of time to go over and hit on PS2. It's triangle and stab them with the dagger of time, and if you do, then you absorb some sand that you can use to slow down time or whatever the fuck, and that's how you finally kill an enemy. If you don't stab them with the dagger, they'll just keep getting up and you'll keep fighting them again and again. And I really like that concept in principle, but like you said, dude, I'll have two of the big blue enemies down, and they're the two I'm like, when there was blue enemies and then just colorless enemies that I know I can use any attack on, I'm going after the blue guys first.
Yeah.
And I'd get the blue ones down, and then I'd go to do the stab to get rid of them. And instead I would stab one of the colorless enemies instead. And I'd be like, fuck. Like, and then the big guy that I'm trying to get rid of gets up before I can stab him because I'm stabbing the wrong one. And that really drove me bananas. And especially as the combat gets tougher later on in the game, that can get really frustrating when you just can't land an attack on the guy you're trying to attack. Fuck, it can be annoying.
And this game, the enemies don't subscribe to the everybody attacks the hero one at a time. Like, they will all come at you. Which, I mean, you can work. There's especially the guys that have big sweeps. They'll take out other enemies, and that's...
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. I hate that fucking. So one of the things I kept running into with the combat is for a sizable portion of the game, you're with this princess Farah, and she has a bow, and she can use it to fight off enemies. But you also have to protect her, and the enemies will start going after her, and you need to not let her die, because if she dies, it's game over as well. And it can be really, really annoying when I'm fighting 3 strong enemies over here and there's one attacking her and she's screaming for help. So I run over there and go to attack the one that's attacking her. But then right as I go to do it, one of the enemies I was fighting teleports over there, and then I end up hitting him again. Yeah. Meanwhile, the one that was attacking Farah just killed Farah. And I'm like, fuck. Like, yeah, I was like,
I like the realism of of not having the invincible AI partner.
Me too.
Like, it's...
I just wish she'd play a little bit of defense. Like, can you run? I've seen your legs. You seem very proud of your ability to squeeze through cracks.
She did not skip leg day.
No. So I'm like, could you please just move 5 feet over there?
Especially because you have a bow. You're using a bow. You want to be away from the people. Move and shoot.
And that's why I don't think she's as bad as Ashley, because Ashley has no defense. Ashley doesn't have a bow. Ashley is just a high school student.
Yeah, but Farrell also accidentally shoots you with the bow if you get between her and the target.
And it's great. I get the realism. And if the enemies can hit each other, then I the first time she shot me with the bow by mistake, I kind of got a chuckle out of it. And I was like, that's pretty realistic. But then the third or fourth time she shot me with the bow, I was like, you're not moving. You're not helping me. And you're shooting me in the ass. And then being like, sorry about that.
This is starting to feel a little personal now.
Yeah. And then near the end of the game, she's like, why didn't you trust me? And I'm like, because you shot me with 12 arrows.
That's okay. A few sips of water and you're fine.
Yeah, I do. I like that. Dude, it took me a long time, too, to realize that in the middle of a fight, if you're willing to roll the dice, you can holster your sword and go over and drink some water if there's water around.
Yeah.
And I would need to do that. But she was just... she was useless sometimes. And dude, you know what? The worst enemies in this game are those giant buzzard birds, whatever the fuck they are, the dead birds. Yeah. Because they come at you, but you can't hit them with your sword until they actually like swoop in to try to attack you. And she will literally be standing there with her bow. And I'm like, hey, you, the ranged one, do you want to maybe shoot these fucking birds that I have to stand on this ledge and wait for them to come down and hit me so I can hit them? Because that would really help me out. You're clearly a good shot. You've hit me like 12 times. Fucking birds. I hate those fucking birds. Fuck, I hate those birds. Other than that, though, I like the idea that you need to like stab the enemies with the dagger of time to really kill them off. And
Yeah.
I also loved the system where you could burn one of the little power uh,
Yeah, the
segments,
little
whatever
one
you
on
want to
the
call
side,
it.
not the main one, but the other ones. Yeah,
Yeah. So like as your power meter grows, you've got your sands of time that you can burn one up to slow down time. And then you've also got these other little white like half moon things beside them. And as you kill enemies, they fill up. And you can use one of them to stab an enemy with the dagger of time, whether they're knocked down to the floor or not. If they're knocked down on the floor and you stab with the dagger of time, you kill them. If they're standing and you stab them with the dagger of time, you'll burn one of your little energy things, but they'll turn to sand and just float in the sky for 5 or 6 seconds. And if you can land a couple regular attacks, you just kill them. And dude, that when you're like when the combat is rolling and you're killing enemies left and right and using that stab to get yourself out of trouble and stuff, when the combat works, it feels really good.
yeah. The other sand ability, I didn't like the slow motion.
Me neither. I never use
I never like slow motion in those games because it always screws up my timing.
Me too. I never found myself using the slow motion.
Yeah, but the one where you do like the little, it stops time and he just goes and slashes everything.
Yeah.
That one was nice, and you had to work to build that up. But if you could get up to that point there, that was a great way of clearing out a bunch of enemies.
Yeah, I only used it a couple of times because, like you said, you had to have full energy to do it. But it was like a great Hail Mary. I haven't played. Have you played the other two?
I played a bit of the second one. I didn't play Warrior Within.
Have they? One thing I would have liked to have seen from this game is when you first start fighting enemies and you realize, like, okay, so if they're red, this is the play of action. If they're wearing blue, I want to use the wall jump. Like, I like games where it's not just mashing the button, but I need to figure out like different enemies take a different strategy to take down, and you got to mix and match. And I was a little bit disappointed that by about the third way through the game mark, it didn't really introduce a lot of new mechanics. It was just using the same mechanics.
You ran into stronger versions of the same kind of four guys.
Yeah, and I would have liked to have seen one or two additional moves and stuff introduced. I don't know. I'm not going to dock points for it, but I'm hoping the second and third game introduce a little bit more depth to the combat. And preferably a way to lock on.
I can hope so. I know typically the second and third games weren't considered to be as good. So
yeah, I mean, I'll tell you all right now, I'm going to play them. Like I thoroughly enjoyed this game. Another thing I liked about this game was no real collectibles outside of finding those little sand things. And
I mean, you could do it. You could do the game with fewer sand, like just the 3 or whatever it is you start with.
Like people that do like the 3 heart runs in Zelda and stuff.
Yeah.
I did like how you could find the occasional hidden hallway that would take you to that place where you drink like the holy water or whatever the fuck, and get a little bit more health.
More life. Yeah.
But I liked that because I'm someone that needs to, even if I don't want the collectibles, I can't help but look for them. And I love the idea that it's like, no, just fucking, the whole focus is just beating this game.
Yeah.
And I quite enjoyed that. I like, there's no stat points, there's no crafting, there's no nothing. Just here's your moves, figure it out. I liked that. I wish more games did that, frankly.
Yeah, no, it is. And, like this game set a lot of things in place that became a staple of the games that I love.
Sure. And shout out, no boss fights outside of the end boss, which was nothing.
No.
And I hate boss fights. So 8 thumbs up to the lack of boss fights. I actually thought when I got to the end of the game, before I fought the final boss, that fucking, I can't remember his name now. He looks like the bad guy from Aladdin though.
Yeah, the Vizier. I don't even know if he has a name.
Yeah, you end up just fighting like 3 or 4 copies of him and then fighting him, and he's super easy.
Yeah.
I thought the game was going to have the balls to be like, nope, no final boss fight. And I thought like, man, you do that, you're getting 1 bonus point on my scale when I score you.
I don't even know if that qualifies as, because I mean, you're fighting a few versions, but as far as fights go, you fight harder ones at the start of the game.
Yeah, I'll give it a half a bonus point because it did put a little bit of a thing in at the end, but it was I was quite impressed with the lack of boss fights. I'm a fan of that. Some of the puzzles, there was one puzzle in this game, and it's closer to the beginning where there's like a guard and he's yelling to you. He's like, "Will you help me reset the castle defense system?"
Yeah,
and
I
was like,
move the crystals around the pillar in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it seemed overwhelming at first, and then I started playing. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of a simple. It's like a slider puzzle. This isn't so bad. The puzzles aren't anything like crazy or memorable, but I liked that the puzzles weren't like, listen, I love God of War as much as the next person, but like, I don't need a hint 3 seconds after I've found the room with the puzzle in it.
Yeah, well, you know who we have to thank for that.
Absolutely. And I liked that this one was a fucking DSP. And I like that this one was a little bit just like, you know what, if you're not even moving, then we'll say something, but otherwise you figure it out. And I found that none of the puzzles were ever like, I found that there was more focus on the platforming puzzles than on the actual solving of puzzles. But the actual puzzles that were in the game were pretty decent. They weren't bad.
And I mean, it fit with the character they were trying to build with the prince. You know, he was acrobatic. I don't think he's particularly intelligent. I mean,
no.
The whole reason you're fighting a bunch of sand zombies is because somebody outsmarted him.
Yeah,
without trying.
For sure. I will say, do you remember? Because I know you haven't played it in a while. There's like a room where there's like some water on the ground, and you have to swing around on these ropes. And
is that the one? Because when you're wet, you can't run up the walls, right?
Yeah, it took me a while to figure that out too. I was like, "What the fuck, this inconsistent piece of shit game? Why would he run up the wall now?" And then I finally realized, like, oh, it's when your feet are wet, you can't run. Yeah. Okay, all right. No, there's one part where you're in this room and you have to like go through this. There's just like a couple inches of water on the bottom, and you travel through like half the room, staying above the water, trying to solve puzzles. Then you find a block that you can push down to get up to a new ledge to do the second half of the room. And I did the whole room, and I must have spent 20 minutes in this room trying to figure out, like, where do I go now? Like, what is left? And that this was actually the moment where I finally went back and watched I looked in the instruction manual, saw to go back to the save point, watched it, and realized, like, oh, on that final rope I was on where I was trying to jump to all these other ledges, you just climb up the rope, and there's a hole in the roof. And I didn't realize, and I was like, oh, that's where you need to watch that. But that's on me for just being a dumbass, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah. I don't remember that specifically, but that sounds totally right for this game.
Yeah, I just didn't realize that I could climb up it climb through the ceiling and get out. So, no, I really enjoyed it. The puzzles are the puzzles are clever. It looks good. The voice acting did the job. The cutscenes didn't overstay their welcome. Forgiving checkpoints, no boss fights. Really, the only two things I would change were I wish you could just hit I wish the rewind worked faster, maybe. So I didn't have to sit there for the full 10 seconds, because that's why I was letting go a split second too early, because I was just getting impatient, being like, I want to try again.
You're never impatient.
So that, and I think the combat, I'd give the combat like a 7. It could use just a little bit more work, a little bit more time in the oven.
Yeah,
but
even if it gave you the ability to lock onto somebody, like
that would change everything.
There's got to be a button that the L button or something. I think that was the block, but it's funny, man. When we started talking an hour ago, you were like, "I'm actually surprised you like this game so much." And I have to, if you had told me, like, when it won the Patreon poll, I was like, "All right, people keep telling me I need to play this one. I'll give it a chance." I did not. I didn't even for the first 20 minutes. I was like, I don't know if this is really going to be for me. And something about it, I put some long sessions into this game. I really got into this game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I will play the second, third games. I want to try have you played the remake? The one that is out now? No.
Okay. I've heard it's not or the remaster. I don't know if it's a full-blown remake. I think it's like a remaster.
No, I'm pretty sure it's just a remaster. I forgot that there was a remaster.
Yeah. I've heard it's not as good. But I'd like to try it at some point. And I have to say the poor remake of this game that has been delayed about 5 times, about 20 years. Yeah. I've gone from not giving a flying fuck about that to being like, I would really like to play this now. I'm very impressed with this game. As pleasantly surprised as I've been with a game in the 310 episodes of this show, quite frankly. Really solid.
I can't remember because it's been years. How was the music and the sound?
It was fine. I'll be honest. About half the game I listened to the sound, and about half the game I would just put like a YouTube video on and just kind of listen in one ear. Is I don't know. It was like classic desert Prince music. I don't even know how to describe it. It was fine. I don't think it was anything memorable, but it was fine.
Yeah, because the atmosphere and the visuals I really liked.
100%. Yeah, and the music was not terrible. It just
Yeah,
it was fine. Really good game. I'll tell you, man, it's too bad people didn't support the PlayStation 2 because it could have been something with games like this. It's too bad.
Yeah,
everybody had to have a Dreamcast, and that was the kiss of death. So, are you good?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Cover the controls, cover the squippiness. His attitude towards women is a little bit outdated, but
yeah, there's some jokes in here that might not fly today, but I thought they were pretty funny. And they were probably quite, I don't mean to be a dick, but I think he frankly treated Farrah better than he probably would have in real life in these times.
Yeah, that's true enough.
So, and we got a little bit of, one of the cutscenes featured some nudity silhouettes and some sexual innuendos. Which
there's some innuendos, and there's a definite implication that they had a happy time when they fell down that hole.
Yeah. A little risque for the old PS2 there.
Yeah. I mean, then you had God of War that had flat out sex mini games, but.
Yes. But, well, he's a god. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. So
he wasn't a god then.
That's fair. Well, he's in the title. But, really good. I'm impressed. We got to score this thing.
Yeah, no, I like this game.
I don't know what the fuck to score this out of. Let me see. Oh, give me something. Wikipedia page.
Came out in 2003.
Yeah, no, I was kind of thinking that.
Doesn't really have anything numerical in it.
No, it doesn't. You know what? Okay. Here we go. I was going to say, I respect this game enough to just give it a score out of 10. But then I just saw the game is set in Persia during the 9th century AD. So we'll go at a 9. 9 centuries.
Out of 9 centuries AD.
Out of 9 centuries. Oh, sorry. Just quickly, before we score this. Apparently there's a GBA version. Have you played the GBA version?
Not maybe. I might have. I originally played it on the GameCube.
Okay.
I vaguely recall. Maybe I did play the GBA version as well.
Like, I'll put my cards on the table because I know every time I bring up a game,
you can play anything on the GBA.
Yeah, every time I bring stuff up, people will ask like, "Oh, are you gonna play?" I don't, unless everyone writes in and is like, "You have to play the GBA version."
Nah, if I did, it wasn't worth remembering. So
yeah, I don't have a lot of interest in it, but maybe. No, GameCube 92, PC 89, PS2 92, Xbox 92, GBA 75 on Metacritic.
Yeah,
I'm good. I'd rather play more games in this series than go back and play that one. Okay, all right. Out of 9 centuries, how many centuries would you give Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time?
I'll give it a good 6.5 centuries. It does, the combat definitely takes a 1.5 down, and there's just, All
right, I get on board with that. I'm gonna go 7.5. The combat I could live without. It was okay. Those fucking birds can suck my dick. I hate those fucking birds and the bats.
Yeah.
When you're standing on a ledge and you have to just basically stand there and just keep mashing attack and wait for the bats to get close enough because you can't go on till they're gone. Fucking bats.
Well, Farrah beaks at you.
Yeah, and Farrah's yelling at you, "Hurry up!" And I'm like, "Shoot the fucking bats!" And then when she tries, she shoots me, and I'm like, "Oh, buddy, I'll fucking stab you with this dagger." Oh, sorry, just I'll have already said it during the infamous intro. There's spoilers. Yeah, I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 9. I loved at the very end of the game when he jabbed the dagger into the sands of time, the sand glass, the whatever the thing, and then he goes back and sees her.
The whole game is him telling it to her the night before they would have invaded. Yeah,
and then he kisses her, and she's not interested, and she's like, "What the fuck?" Because she doesn't remember any of this. So then he rewinds time to before he kissed her, and then I can't remember what he says to her, but he just says something to her that she said to him during the quest, like a word. Yeah. And she was like, "Holy fuck!" And then he left, and then she realized it was true. I thought that was a brilliant little ending.
That was a good way. Yeah, but yeah, like because I thought the whole game, like it's kind of made out like he's telling us the players, and the fact that you find out it's him telling her, which is and then the Vizier attacks. Yeah. I'm really impressed. I'll give it a 7.5. I was great choice for all of you that voted in the PS2 poll to get this one on the show. Well done. Because I'll be honest, like I had bought this one months ago. You can get this game for like $10 used easy. Like I had bought it, planning to play it for the show someday, but I didn't know when. I had no interest in really getting around to playing this.
And this franchise and its 2 sequels have skyrocketed up my interested chart because of you guys. So good voting. Well done. And Daniel, I know I kind of put you on the spot to be on this episode. That's why I didn't have time to do any replays or anything. Let me just say thanks for picking up the ball and running with it. And good job. Thanks for doing this, man.
Oh, my pleasure. This is the success of this game is part of why we got God of War, and you know how much I love that franchise. So,
and speaking of that, because I keep getting asked, I don't know when, but it's not a matter of if, I will play God of War 2. It's just stuck in the backlog from hell. But there's some games where I'm dreading playing them, and there's other games that I'm like, I really want to, I just can't play everything. I will play God of War 2 because I thought God of War was fantastic. So I will play God of War 2. It's in the backlog from hell someday. And now it's joined by the other 2 Prince of Persia games. So why the fuck? It's a fucking great. I play one game and I'm like, that's one game off the backlog. And then it turned out it added 2 more games to the fucking backlog. So
that's how it works, right? 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
First world problems. Too many games. On that note, everybody play Astrobot. Daniel, good job. Talk to you later, buddy.
Talk to you later, man.
And that is going to do it for this week's episode. Daniel, thank you so much for giving me a call and talking Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. It was kind of a last-minute fill-in, so I'm glad that it worked out. Daniel was able to pull my ass out of the fire. And speaking of pulling my ass out of... I guess you guys aren't... Whatever. Thank you all so much for listening. I in my head, there was a segue there, and I couldn't get the dots together before my mouth caught up. Thanks for listening. Whether this was your first Remember the Game, your 310th, some number in between, I know there's a lot of retro gaming shows out there, and that you rolled the dice on this one makes you a fucking hero, all right? And I'm not one to use that word lightly. You are a fucking hero, my friend. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to go through our archives. I guarantee you some of your favorite games have been covered. There's 300 plus of these fucking things. And if you want even more, there's like 600 some episodes at patreon.com/rememberthegame. Once you sign up for Patreon, you can add them to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, just about any podcast service you want. Listen to them over there. They're all ad-free. There's new ones every week. And you pay for my food and my crippling drug addiction, and I'm grateful for it. So thanks, everybody. Also, leave us a nice review, if you would, please. And twitch.tv/rememberthegame or youtube.com/rememberthegame. You can come by and see me when I'm playing games, watch my old Let's Plays. It's awesomely outrageous, as the kids say. Tomorrow, for all our patrons, I'll be back on Expansion Pass, ranking all the games we covered on Remember the Game 201 through 300. The Rambling Idiot goes live on Friday, and we'll be back next week with a whole other slab of podcasts, including Remember the Game number 311. I can't promise what it is. I'm hoping Mass Effect 3, but it's going to really depend on how the next 6 days shake out. If not, maybe Jurassic Park for the Super Nintendo. But I don't know. We'll see. Just come back in 7 days. Just subscribe. Follow, whatever the fuck you have to do to listen to this every week. And then you will, and then you'll know what it is, because you'll hear it in 7 days. I'm going to thank some patrons and get out of here. Appreciate you all so much. Thank you for listening. Talk to you later. Cheers. Remember the Game is brought to you by our Patreons. I could not puke up all the content I churn out every week without all of your support. The following people are at the senior executive vice president level or higher at patreon.com/rememberthegame, and as such, I am contractually obligated to say their names very, very quickly. So in alphabetical order, a huge thank you to Remember the Game Hall of Famer Slick motherfucking Rick. A dude named Adam A.B. Killen, Aaron Lawson, Ace McGuy, Adam Blank still hasn't reviewed Mario Galaxy, Adam Martinet, Adam's former assistant, AJ McCurgy, Alex McIntyre, Alex R., Alex Ramos, Alexander Camps, Andrew Wright, Andy Hudson, Angry Ticks, Archangel Otaku, A-Town, Atrio Wormwood, Band, Beat on the Moan, Beaver Boy, Beef Dingleberry, Beers of War, Benjamin Atkins, Big Daddy Randall, Big the Cat, Biddy, B-Cuz19, Blaine the Hoagie Man, Blobby Rogers, B Money, Brandon DeZeba, Brian Richmond, Bula, Burt Macklin, Busty Meadle, Cam Nelly 23, Can't Destroy Her, Captain Steve N, Carbon Fiber Zombie, Cesar, Chaz Hammond, Chris Fleury, Chris Hill is a master tromboner, Christian Gabriel, Christopher Britt, Chugger 22, Cody Richardson, Cody Thompson, Combo Chuck, Confused But Still Here, Crystal Lake Management, Daddy's Chubby Little Secret, Daddy's Secret Little Chubby, Wraith, Dan Fusselman, Dan of Dissect That Film, Daniel, Darbles, Darth Skywalter, Dave McGee, Dave Thompson, David Schroeder, DBXJ, Decoy Man, Dem Boys on the Roof, Diablo Spartan, Donnie the Dude Walter, Doogie Bowser MD, Doug Dorn, Drugs and Bad MK, Earl, Eldest Millennial, Elephant Cavs, Elijah Burns, E-Man Trucker, Eric James, Eric Hopewell, Fallen Snow Kiku, Faded Sufferance, Frosty Bear, Frosty V492, Funky C, Funky Do, Fuzzy 99, General Fury, G9PSX, Gabe, Glue Scoppet, Graham Kennedy, Growly Walk, Guy Who Does Things, Hagel Waffle, High Plains Drifter, Hitchy Poo, Holmes, Horace Earl. I cancel my Netflix to afford this shout out. I like jorts, they're comfy and easy to wear. Itchy Nutsuru, Ida Yellow, Isaias, Jake Carter, Jameer Williams, James Clark, James Juan Francesco, Jeff Bergeron, Jimothy, Jay Callahan, Jay Nasty 15, Joe Buck, Joe the Sandman, John M. Watkins, John Woodruff, Johnny from Virginia, John of the Adult Children Podcast, Jordan, JSK Fusik, Juris Dr. Mario, Just a Fish, Just Car Pranks, Justin Blair, Kevin Monroe, Kia Pup, Laces Out, Leo, Laces Out Dan, pardon me, Leo, Leroy Westrich, Lil Bunny Fufu 89, Liquor Like Luigi, Lord Longrod Von Hugendom II, Lord Palmerston, Lord Salazar, Lucas Shaman, Madam Nutsitch, Makeshift Mallow Magic Money, Marcus Mendoza, Mark Sneed, Matt Babinu, Matt Zeus, Maverick Marty, Max Lagru, Max Sandin, MacGyver 88, McCracken, Mellow Yellow 8787, Mercury 869, Mike Maloney, Mr. Jabroni, Mizuru, Monstrous Boner, Morgan, My Left Nut, Nerdy Hybrid, No One Cares, Nordak, Nothing Could Possibly Go Wrong, Oroku Saki's Gardener, Phil Lencher, Fill Up My Farts With Mouth, Fill Up My Mouth With Farts, Plow King, I'm losing my voice again. Postman, Put It in H, Quiet Place Queen, Radioactive Man, Randy Barrage, Rated Excellent, Robbie Air, Roger Staubach Spool Cleaner, Rush's Dog Walker, Ryan Kinchin, Ryan Perry, Ryan Stemmerding, Ryan Whitcomb, S. Sabin, Sam Carpenter, Savage Boosh, Scary Terry, Scott Brooks, Scotty McGee, Shank the Rat-Faced Bastard, Shoeboxer, Sharonic, Sleeper Hit, Sour Goat Face, Spider Cat, Squeak Nut, Squint, Standard Ass Brian, Steve Dulk, Stud Still Smash, Super Saiyan, Sephiroth, Super Jess, T-Bear 87, Tadpole, Ted Explosion, The Big Deal, The Fletchman, Theodore, The Supreme, Chozorizo, Thomas Smith, Timmy the Exuberant Turtle, Timothy Sabrinsky, Titan 420, Toby OP, Tom Foolahan, Travis Sanders, Triple, Tyler Bauer, VOS Rager, Works For Me, Wilco, Wimp 15, Wolfgang Darren, Wolf Magic 21, Wyatt the Surgeon Who's Not a Surgeon Row, X Maverick X, Youngster TK, Your Threats Don't Scare Me, Hot Dog Man, Zach Shepard, Zamatos, Zane Donovan, Zen Paladin, Zonko 504, Z Train 22, and The Mysterious Blank. Thank you all so much for the support, for real. Thank you. See you later. Cheers.